The very, very first British Beauty Council and the Glow Getter Collective webinar. I'm super excited to have you here. Now, I'm just going to let everybody join, so it might take a minute or two for everyone to come on. We've already got 85, nearly 90, over 90. Okay, so we've got 100 people on so far, which is brilliant. And I would love to know where you are all from in the chat room. So please head on over to the chat. Let us know what area in the UK you're on. If you are in the UK or you're outside of the UK, it would be really amazing to hear. Okay, so we've got Chantal from Kent, we've got Natalie from London, North London, Cardiff, love it. So Russia, wow, Charleston, London, Berkshire, oh, it's going too quickly, London, Swindon, Ireland, Liverpool, London, Brussels, Belgium, South London, Norfolk, Warwickshire, Philadelphia. Oh, this is so exciting, brilliant. Hello and welcome to you all. I'm so excited that you're here. And I know all the panelists are as well, and it's going to be brilliant to be able to have this conversation, and I'm really excited to answer all the questions. So let me just see how many, we've got 156, 160 people on now, so I'll just give it a couple more minutes before we kick off the questions. We have Diana, who works with the British Beauty Council, who is in the chat room. So if you have any questions, if you want any links, if you want the Instagram accounts for everybody who is part of the panel discussion here, Diana will be popping them in there for you. So, and also if there's a link to the Diversity and Inclusivity report we mentioned, you can also get that from Diana in there. She'll be popping them all in too. So, now I think we're gonna close the chat and I will get started. So an official welcome and hello to everyone that is here. You're from all parts of the world. It's so exciting to be able to welcome you and our amazing panelists to the first of what is going to be a monthly series with myself, who is Ayodele Lucas. I'm the founder of the Glow Getter Collective, which is an online membership to help natural brands with their marketing strategy. And I am doing these webinars in association with the amazing British Beauty Council. So the reason we're doing these webinars is to help learn, to engage, and to grow from the beauty industry as a whole. And we have powerhouse panel here today, and what I want to do is formally introduce you to them. I've got their bios right here beside me, and I want to make sure that I get it right. So I've got their bios right, so I'm going to do a little bit of looking over this way and reading from the bios that they've sent in. So this is just to ensure I get everything right, and also you'll be able to hear about the really exciting things that are coming up for these people, and you can go and support them and check them out as well. This is obviously a discussion which we're really excited about having, so please pop in the chat any questions that you have. If it's specific for a particular person on the panel, then please pop their name on there as well. Diana will be going through and choosing some of the questions towards the end, so that then we can direct them to the panel and hopefully get your questions answered. We might not be able to get all of them answered because there's so many of you, there's over 200 people on here now, but we will do our very best to go through everything. In terms of timekeeping, we are, it's going to be about an hour long. We'll try not to go over that because I want to respect everybody's time in terms of the panelists and also everybody who's turned up as well. So enough of me speaking. Let me first introduce all the panelists to you. So the first person we have is the amazing Charlotte Mensah. Now, Charlotte is a British-Ghanaian hairstylist and owner and artistic director of the Hair Lounge Salon in Portobello Road in Notting Hill. She is also the founder of the Charlotte Mensah Manchetti oil product range, and she regularly contributes on the subject of natural hair across titles such as Elle, Vogue, Grazia, Stylist, Refinery 29 and Black Hair magazine. She is a patron of the Prince's Trust, a Root Panel member at the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education, a member of the British Beauty Council, and founder of the charity LOVE, which stands for Ladies of Visionary Empowerment, which is aimed at furthering education opportunities for young women in Africa. And very excitingly, she's going to be launching her book, Good Hair, in October 2020, which you can pre-order from Amazon. So definitely write down Good Hair, pre-order Amazon, and go and check it out. The next amazing lady we have is Dija Ayodele, and she is an esthetician and founder of the Black Skin Directory. Dija has over a decade of experience in beauty and the aesthetic industry, and is a London-based esthetician and has the clinic West Room Aesthetics. So definitely go and check out westroomaesthetics.com. That's her URL, and she specializes in skin of color. Dija also founded the Black Skin Directory, which is an award-winning and pioneering platform that enables people of color to access dermatologists, estheticians, and other skincare professionals who are specifically qualified and experienced in treating and working with unique physiology of darker skin tones. Additionally, Dija also sits on the board at the advisory board for the British Beauty Council and for the British Association of Beauty Therapy and Cosmetology. We next have the amazing Deborah Johnson, who is a freelance PR and brand manager, and she has she's the founder of DeborahTJohnson.com. So that's her URL if you would like to check it out. She has over 14 years experience in the industry, the majority of which was in and she now focuses her experience to elevate and champion independent brands created by women of color. Then we have the amazing Gary Thompson, who is the Plastic Boy. He is a makeup artist and a blogger and content creator who is breaking the boundaries of traditional makeup and beauty. He has over 300,000 people follow him on Instagram and his how-to tutorials. And he started out doing mini Instagram videos about 3 years ago, and his flair for makeovers has kind of taken it over the world, and he's been an instant hit. Gary was the first male in the UK to front a major beauty campaign, and his story has been featured in multiple media publications, including the Daily Mail and the Metro. And he has recently launched his own collection of signature eyelaw lashes, which are out now, and you can get them in Boots online and nationwide. So definitely go and check them out. Then we have Mensah, who is a professional hair and makeup artist. She's got over 20 years experience in the industry and is a personal makeup artist to Stevie Wonder for over 10 years. She originally trained in fashion and design and illustration at the London College of Fashion, and then went on to get her BA honours in business and service marketing, all while being a single mother to 2 sets of twins, which is just, that blows my mind. Missing the creative field, Mensah then started her career in hair and makeup as a self-taught makeup artist, but then went into study on Afro-European media, makeup and hair extensions. And she's currently working as a freelance makeup artist and educator, teaching her course on Afro hair texture and media makeup for African, Caribbean, South and East Asian ethnicities. She's now going to be launching that course and working with Back2 Union. So if you would like to find out more information about Mensah's course on Afro hair texture and media makeup, then definitely get in touch with her on her Instagram account. She's launching it with Back2 first and then Screen Skills. And then last but by no means least, we have Fiona, who is the head of diversity and inclusion for international markets, Walgreens, Boots Alliance, and the British Beauty Council Diversity and Inclusion Advisor. And you can you can go and follow her on LinkedIn. Diana is in the chat room, and we'll be leaving all of those links in there for you. So feel free to go and give everybody a follow and a support. So moving on very quickly, because I want to get into everything. The reason the British Beauty Council and I wanted to kick off this first webinar with a debate around diversity and inclusivity is because it is fundamental that we as an industry have more open and honest conversations around race, the issues of racism within the industry, and more importantly, how to dismantle it so that we can all be part of a solution. And the reason for this webinar is a part of a roadmap for this solution. Now, I know that there's a desire for actions to have already been taken, which is why before I kick off on the questions, I want to come over to Fiona, who headed up the British Beauty Council's Diversity and Inclusivity report. And can you give us an update on kind of what that was about, and then also the actions that have been taken and what's happening within the next 6 weeks?
Yes, thank you, Ayodele, and amazing panel to be on. I'm honoured to be on the panel, so really looking forward to the discussion. But yeah, in terms of context, some of you will know about the British Beauty Council already. So it's actually a fairly young organisation, non-profit advocacy group essentially. It's been in existence for about a year. And last year we wanted to start the conversation in the space because we felt actually that there's more for the industry to be doing in terms of becoming truly inclusive on a whole range of dimensions of diversity. So we started with a think tank event in partnership with the British School of Fashion in November last year. Which had some fantastic panellists, really diverse panellists as well, prolific in their careers and their representation of the industry, to act as kind of thought starters on the consumer imperative for focusing on inclusion and diversity within the industry, but also the commercial imperative for it and the size of the opportunity that the industry potentially is missing out on. And that then led to kind of further discussions with some advisory board members that were present that day, and also some of the British School of Fashion students, which are around 85% Black, Asian and minority ethnicities as well, to have a truly representative perspective. We took those insights and then published this inclusivity report to just outline the key findings. And really what we found is that while the British beauty industry has made some improvements insofar as democratizing the industry a little bit more through the influencer model, around increasing access to broader shades, etc., through certain brands, and also around better demonstrating the value of the industry and the professional value of the industry more broadly through the valuation report, there is still a hell of a lot to be done. And that we and the British Beauty Council are well placed to lobby for some of that change and to drive for it and to champion change on this. I think that conversation has been heightened even more in the last few weeks after the killing of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, too many of the members of the Black community, where it's really been a stark conversation to be having around what more can we do intentionally in the space of racial equality and the racial equality movement. So in terms of next steps, this conversation is obviously an amazing, going to be an amazing insight into what we could be doing better and as an industry. We also have a think tank for members taking place on the 2nd of July, where we'll be exploring 4 key areas. So one is education and diversity in education from a skin perspective. One is diversity in education from a hair perspective. So some amazing voices on the panel today that can speak to those areas too. The third is around building on the media rider that we included in the inclusivity report, which had been created by Grace Timothy in consultation with the industry. What more do we need to think about, and what do we need to think about, especially in this kind of social media environment? Is there more we could be doing in that space? And the final piece was, again, building on the media rider. Is there a brand rider equivalent that we should be working towards to really champion brands, looking at their hiring practices, looking at who's at the decision-making tables, looking at the way that they test for and research product insights, all of those amazing things. The output of that think tank will be a shaped set of survey questions essentially, and we would like that survey to go as far and wide as it possibly can, so that it can reach a truly diverse consumer representative group essentially. So look out for that survey, because we will want as many people to participate as possible in that. And then the idea is to take the insights from that initially at an advisory board meeting on the 29th of July to look at the high level results, and then through further analysis by September time, have a clear set of 2 or 3 areas of focus for the British Beauty Council to really champion better inclusion and diversity within the beauty industry. We have to start small to an extent, because the British Beauty Council only has 3 full-time paid members of staff. The advisory board will do the work kind of pro bono and free of charge, and so that that can make things just take a bit longer. But certainly look out for those ways to be involved. You can still sign up to the think tank event on the 2nd of July if you'd like to, and certainly look out for that survey.
Brilliant, that's great. Thank you so much for that. So that gives you a little taste of kind of what's happening and what's to come. So definitely get involved. And Diana, I'm sure will add a link to it. If you would like to become a member of the British Beauty Council, then she'll pop the link in there for you as well. So without further ado, let's jump onto the questions. Woo! So the first question I would love to direct to Dija. So it's about, how do you feel that diversity and inclusion have lacked from the beauty in, education, and what changes have you seen and would like to see?
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Great panel, lovely to see everyone on here. I think fundamentally there's just never been an acknowledgement of darker skin tones, of black skin within the curriculums anyway. It's the physiology has never been taught, and even at level 2, level 3, which is when you enter to do your NVQs, if that's the route you're going, it's just never been present. So I mean, I fundamentally believe that we have been giving students and therapists going into industry half an education, because they get taught the basics, and it's only when you're in industry, you know, you get told things like sort of myths and misconceptions about dark skin and black skin, and then you have therapists kind of being scared and apprehensive to treat anybody who is, say, as dark as me, for example. And through Black Skin Directory, we know that this happens regularly. Even now, you get consumers coming back to us saying, I went to a clinic and they say they don't do black skin, which is, you know, it's just fundamentally unacceptable in this day and age. So the education has lacked, because we've always had the research that shows that the physiology of dark skin is different to that of white skin. The makeup, just by the presence of melanin, makes the skin behave differently, and that is what needs to be taught to students, so that they can take those kinds of things into account when they do go into practice and start treating the general public. Because you can't control who walks through your door when you're in clinic, but one thing you can control is the amount of knowledge you have, and the amount of, and how you treat clients. So the fundamentally, not children, sorry, students are going out with just the lack of skills and lack of the practical skills, and lack of the knowledge as well. It's fair enough if you have a college, say for example, in, I don't know, say Devon, footfall is low. In terms of black consumers, footfall is low. So I can hear a college saying, well, we don't actually have that demand. Fair enough, you might not have the demand, but the knowledge still needs to be taught, because that student of yours could go and work anywhere else in the world where they're going to encounter darker skin tones and skin of colour. So it's not sufficient in this day and age to say, well, we just don't get that footfall, so therefore we're not going to teach it. At least teach the knowledge, and I think that's the basics. And I have found through Black Skin Directory, in the courses that we run, it's the onus has been placed on students who want to excel in the industry. So you have a certain percentage of students who want to do their very, very best, and they will be the ones who seek out the information, which is fine, but I feel like they've been fundamentally failed from the get-go. If they've paid for that education, they've not got a good deal, because they haven't been given all the knowledge that they could have possibly been given. So yes, we have these students who seek more knowledge, which is great, but then you have the students who don't seek the knowledge, but yet go ahead and try and practice on dark skin anyway, and therefore cause complications and problems for those consumers. So it's leaving you know, the therapist in a very, very difficult position, where most times they'll just prefer to refrain from treating. So therefore the black consumer isn't served, the black consumer is annihilated from the treatment is from imagery and all that sort of stuff. You know, it's just not featured. So I mean, what I would like to see more of is a fundamental mandate to say that colleges must teach the knowledge. You don't have to teach the practical if you don't have the football, or you don't have, say, for example, you don't have models to come in and for the students to practice on. But you must teach the knowledge, because the knowledge is there, because that's the knowledge I teach when I go out to companies and brands. We don't do practicals, excuse me, we don't do practicals, but we definitely teach the knowledge. So I think that should be made clear.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that as well, because when I trained as a beauty therapist, I never got any training on that whatsoever. So there is a massive gap there, and like, luckily you're there to be able to start training other people on it and through your courses as well. So it's brilliant. Did anybody else have anything that they wanted to Yeah, Gary, go for it.
I know Dija spoke about education. I remember when I finished uni, I worked as a makeup artist, and I remember like going into training, and there just wasn't a black model that was used to obviously do foundation matches on, or certain like, because obviously we have melanated skin, so we sometimes have darker pigments around the mouth. And I feel like because there wasn't that training that makeup companies were providing then, I felt like when a black person was come onto counter, or like an Asian person, if there was a white artist, they'd be quite scared and they wouldn't know what they were doing. And if they did sit down, the customer, they would do something and the customer would be like, oh my God, like you're not doing it right, or I look too orange. And I feel like because that training wasn't there, then the artists are scared to do deeper skin tones. And I feel like brands need to, when doing makeup training, they need to, even though they have white models, have an Asian model, have a black model, teach about color correcting, teach about how to deal with just different cores of the skin with makeup. Because I feel like some artists, they want to do deeper skin tones, but because that education hasn't been there, they're scared. And that's why when black women or black guys come to a makeup counter, they sometimes just want to see someone that looks like them, because they're scared that another artist who may be white doesn't know what they're doing, because that education hasn't been done. So I feel like I'd love to see all brands, just when they're doing makeup training or just for new products, definitely teach all artists how they can facilitate this on all skin tones. So I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, completely. I completely agree with that as well.
I think in the colleges, it just needs to be mandatory, full stop. Because the term as a makeup artist and a hairstylist means that you can do from the paler skin to the deeper skin. You can do from all hair texture, from European hair to Afro hair. Right now, you know, I think that there's a lot. We have selective makeup artists, selective hairstylists, and that's because it wasn't mandatory. The thing is, there's a lot that is not even an option. Yeah. You know, Afro hair and makeup on a deeper skin tone is not even an option. Now, the thing is, you're going out in the industry, we live in a very diverse, it might not be that inclusive, but it's so diverse. Yeah. You cannot focus on just one ethnicity or one hair texture and then expect those students to go out and know. In film and TV fashion, this is where the problem is. But what is so great is people want to learn. Yeah. People are screaming out, we want to learn how to do the paler skin to the deeper skin. But how can they learn if it's not mandatory? Why would you class yourself as a makeup artist, as a hairstylist, when you can only do one texture, one hair texture and one ethnicity? You're not a makeup artist, you're not a hairstylist, you're a selective. So the thing is, we need to go back into that ethos, encourage all the schools, the colleges, especially the colleges, because like Deja said, the colleges teach you the core, the fundamental. And then when you go into academies and work in the makeup shops and all of that, then you have your add-ons. So the core, if the core, when you go to college, you learn is just based on one ethnicity, you're not actually teaching it properly, you know, and we need to teach the correct history as well. So when I was learning makeup or hair, when we're learning about the 1920s, you know, just take for example, I don't know, Betty Boo. You need to understand, you need to teach the correct history. Yeah. You know, no matter what the culture is, you just need to teach the correct history so that they know the period, right? This, you know, 1920s, this was the hair was like that for European or African. It's so important that they teach all different cultures the correct history to go with that period, because as makeup artists and hairstylists, we're storytellers. You know, when you get the script, you need to transform it into storytellers. We need to be, without knowing the correct history, you can't do the makeup or the hair correctly. You can't go and put a European wig on an Afro, on a black character and think, well, do you know what? 1900, that's how it was. It wasn't. You know, or the 80s, that's how it was. It wasn't. You need to teach, right, you know, American 70s to, you know, Europe 70s to African 70s. You know, just having the hairstyle was just different. Just even on a black person, it was different style. So we need to teach the correct history and make it mandatory that you know the paler skin to the deeper skin.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
It's so true. Charlotte, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's so true what everyone's saying, but also Mensah, there needs to be the educators, because where are these educators to tell the stories? Because the people that are getting the jobs are not competent. They don't know what they're doing, you know, so you need to look at it all across the board. So they need to employ people that really know about the textures to teach in these colleges. Yes. And also, to be fair, a lot of colleges are closed down. So I don't know where the colleges are anymore for hairdressing. Where are they? Where are the colleges? Most of the colleges are closed down.
Yeah, Dija, did you want to add something in there?
I mean, I think from the most fundamental point of view, which is skin, because even as Gary mentioned, you're talking about different types of pigmentation in the skin that would cause you to have to color correct. Yeah. The fundamental starts from the actual physiology of skin. And Charlotte's got a point about the fact that where are the educators? Because it is true, who is out there, apart from, if I'm honest, apart from, say, Black Skin Directory, I don't know many people who are out there trying to teach this education. But I also think we have, and the elephant in the room is what we don't sometimes talk about, is the fact that, okay, an organisation like the Black Skin Directory, for example, is providing the knowledge, or it could be anybody else actually providing the knowledge. But where companies sometimes haven't placed value on this knowledge, they then don't want to pay the educators the cost of providing that knowledge. We've had it several times where they've approached us and we've said, this is how much it costs, and they go, oh, and then they back out, right? So therefore their therapists are left without that knowledge that they need, because for so long there hasn't been any value placed on that extra knowledge of having to teach or of having to treat darker skin tones and black skin. So again, it then falls on the therapist to say, I really want to know about this, so therefore I'm going to spend my personal money and teach myself and ask for a course. So it's a bit of both. You know, there's an economic factor as well as the fact that where are the educators?
There are a lot out there. I think there are a lot out there.
Not from a skin point of view.
We need to make them be aware. There are educators out there. I know great people that are great educators in Afro hair texture, in all hair texture. In, you know, I'm just talking from makeup side. And,
I think hair and makeup is slightly different. There.
I think Deja, the thing is we need to just ask the correct people. We need to and just set up a database, because for me, I think the people are there. You just
I agree with you, Mensah. I agree with you from a hair point of view. There are many educators. I know lots of hair educators. From a makeup point of view, I know lots of makeup educators. But from a skin therapy point of view, that is severely lacking.
I agree with you. I really agree with you.
Interject because screenshot. I think part of the thing is we know individually there's experts out there, there are educators out there. Maybe it's a requirement for us to actually come together across beauty and hair and petition the brands that are so, for example, L'Oreal, for example, spearheading the discussion around salons reopening and sort of policies for COVID. Why can they not support an initiative for Afro hair education? Can we come together collectively to ask a petition for the things that we want to see? Because listening to the conversation, There are a great many experts out there. There are a great many leaders out there, but they need the financial backing that these conglomerates can offer.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
Well said, Deborah.
Yeah,
Really
absolutely.
I think that, like you said, there needs to be some sort of database, because you're saying there's all these educators. If these people don't know, where are we advertised? Is there like a directory? Is there a, you know, how do you find them? How do you know where they are? So something needs to be really done quickly, because it's a pandemic, really. We need to really get on it straight away. So this talk is so needed. I'm just so glad that we're having this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can definitely take those notes back, and I'm sure Diana and Nicole on the British Beauty Council team, as well as Fiona, can like have a think about that and talk about that as well. I wanted to move the conversation on to beauty and consumerism, and specifically come to you, Gary, to answer this question. So as a beauty consumer, in what way have your needs been catered for, and or have they not? And what great examples of brands can you share that have done this really well? And what do you really want to happen next?
Well, I think when I think to a few years ago, it was so hard to find darker shades in any kind of stores. You really had to dig deep. There was only a select few. But if you look now, we've got Fenty that are killing it, that have so many dark shades and so many undertones. We have Estée Lauder that have over 60 shades of double wear, which are catering for deeper skin tone. We also have Makeup Revolution now, which is more affordable, which have over 60 shades for deeper skin tones. And we also have Too Faced, which partnered with an influencer called Jackie Aina to extend their foundation range, which is also like digging deep and really asking someone of the beauty community to say, oh, what kind of shades we need and what kind of undertones we need. So we really have that. But at the same time, I feel like with the retail stores, I feel like there's still some brands in store that don't cater to deeper skin tones. So like I remember going to like a brand a few months ago and just inquiring about a concealer, and they were like, oh, sorry, we just don't do dark shades. And I feel like in 2020, if you don't do dark shades, then I don't feel like you should be in the store. I feel like all stores should have a regulation to say, well, if you don't have a certain amount of shades just to suit light, medium, and the darkest of the dark, then you shouldn't be allowed in our store. Because I feel like when a consumer goes to a concession, and the sales consultant says, well, we don't have a shade for you, why don't you go over there? They don't actually feel like how you make that person feel, because maybe the person really is a fan of your brand and maybe uses like a eyeliner or a mascara, but you're sending them over because your brand doesn't do a complexion-based product. And even though the brand could do a complexion-based product, they just don't want it, or they're just basically lazy. And I feel like brands like that shouldn't be in stores now, because it's basically discrimination, because you're basically saying, well, we have 14 shades of sand, alabaster, and beige, but we just don't want to do deeper skin tones because we just don't want to. And I feel like a lot of brands say, oh, well, you know, deeper skin tones don't buy our products. And I feel like when you walk into a store and you see a visual, sometimes that brand may have deeper skin tones, but if the visual isn't representing the brand, like if I see a visual and it's maybe like 2 white women and you have maybe 16 darker shades, how will I know if the visual that I'm seeing as I walk into the store isn't like that? Do you know what I mean? So I feel like stores really need to step up and really, when accepting new brands or existing brands, really just dig onto them about the shade range, just because everyone wants to feel accepted when walking into any beauty store. So I feel like stores just need to get on point with that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Deborah, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I think there's more to that. In seeing the bigger conglomerates supporting sort of Black Lives Matter movement and their support in, my thing is, it's great having large corporations have shade expansions, texture expansions, because they now see the value of the Black pound. But the thing is, what happens to support for a Black economy from a grassroots business level? You have organisations like Glossier in the US who pledged $500,000 to support Black-owned businesses. You have Share Moisture, that's something similar to the Salon Initiative. That is what I think we need to see and increase more of. The guys who are up there giving a helping hand to the smaller startup Black-owned businesses that are coming through. And then furthermore, to the retail point, why can't we have more independent Black-owned businesses as well? Why do we always have to give our money to conglomerates? In supporting Black-owned businesses, we're supporting our community.
This is so true. I feel like definitely stores, sorry to interrupt you, definitely stores need to have more Black-owned brands in their stores. I know there's so many Black-owned brands I could think of that could be in you know, these major retail stores on the high street, but I just don't know why they're not accepting them. There's so many amazing smaller brands and niche brands, and I feel like this needs to be more. And you're right with the Black Lives Matter movement. A lot of brands, what we've seen last week, were like, you know, we support the Black Lives Matter movement, we're posting a black square, but how can you post a black square when your shade range doesn't represent what you're talking about? So for me, you might as well not have posted the black square or even have spoken about it, because I think some brands are doing it for a trend. And like I was saying to my friends and colleagues, that you'll be able to see during these past few weeks and months that if these brands are really going to step up and extend their shade range, or really donate and show and put their money where their mouths are, or if they're just following what other brands are doing. You know what I mean?
Gary, you're so right. People buy people. If I go to a retail shop and I see that there's not someone looking like me, I'm going to automatically think that they don't have it. They're not catering for me. That is the first rule of, you know, especially service marketing. You need to understand people buy people. You know, you can move from one brand to the other. Your customers, your consumers will follow you. So you need to represent. If you say that you're diverse, have a diverse team, have, you know, from all ethnicities, so that when they come in, they will feel that, wow, this retail shop caters for me. You know, well, how can I, yes, it's great that, you know, you have high street, some minimum high street retail shops that stock Afro hair products. But the thing is, when I go to those stores, the percentage is embarrassing. It's as if you're trying to tell me, just be grateful that we've got those things there. It is literally where I'll see products and makeup for, say, for hair, especially with the hair, you know, there will be about 80% for European hair. I would see, if I'm lucky, maybe 10% for Afro hair texture. And the worst thing is, it's so limited. It's as if I'm just thinking, who talks to these retailers to tell them this is the most popular from the natural range? Who is telling them? It's, you know, it's great that they're doing it, but if you're going to do something, do it the same, do it mandatory. If you're going to have for European hair, if you're going to have 50% for European hair, have 50% for Afro hair. If you, it's got to be mandatory. It, you know, so it's great that, yes, they are doing it, but the way that it's being done, you might as well not do it. Do it and do it 100%, or don't do it, because I'm sorry. I was just gonna say from that, even when makeup brands, like, I feel like stores really need to get onto them. Like, imagine like a brand will release a foundation and then they'll have all these shades, and then they'll be like, oh, but we're gonna release a darker shade in 4 months. I feel like, no, that needs to stop. First of all, the store needs to say, you're not releasing the foundation until all shades are there, because what's the point? Because I'm just tired of darker shades being an afterthought. You know what I mean? They will say that, well, is because we don't have those consumers. If I don't see the product, if there's no supply, how can there be demand? You cannot expect demand when there is no supply. It buggles me when it comes to the business side, the marketing side. You know, you're saying, oh, well, we don't sell that many shades because there's no supply. There's no supply, there's no demand.
Yeah, I think.
Supply it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, can I just stop us for a second? Because I think there was 3 of us talking all at the same time. Deborah, do you want to jump in there?
Fiona to go, because I know she's had her hand up for a while.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. Fiona.
Oh, thank you, Deborah. That was very gracious of you. I really echo what everybody's saying. Really, I think if anything, you know, there are women of colour-owned businesses, businesses that have been catering, and more independent businesses, Black-owned businesses that have been winning in this space, or, you know, trying to win and knock down doors in this space. And if anything, Fenty Beauty has totally put to bed all those questions about, is there a market for it? Will you really, be able to sell all these shades? So I agree. I think what I also think, it needs a very holistic approach, because it's not just about education. It's not just about ranging. It has to be kind of all encompassing. And I think that's probably where, you know, I work in a large organization. I think that's one of the things that kind of slows us down a little bit is that we don't want to just be reactive to one thing and be kind of tokenistic. It has to be kind of a really all-encompassing plan. I do think that whilst we've had, you know, if I think about Adobe as an example, we've had a strategic view of diversity and inclusion as a whole before, and we've done kind of education around unconscious bias and inclusive leadership, and that has a place. I think what the last few weeks especially has taught our organisation is we need to be very intentional about racial equality. So that what that looks like is actually the decision makers in some of these organisations ensuring that the people around the table are diverse in the first instance. It also looks like from an education perspective, actually educating all teams on what it means to be anti-racist, so that you're not having to go in and make tactical decisions about ranging because everybody's already thinking with that mindset. We are also looking at things like ranging. We've even started to look at things like testing, because actually it's only in this really intentional view that we've looked at the way that we test our products has before been around just having a proportional representation, right? So if there's 100 people tested, we know that on average there's 14% people of colour in the UK. So 14 of those people would be people of colour, and that would be broken down by the ethnic representation that we see in the UK. But often that means that the sample sizes for those ethnicities isn't large enough to be really statistically robust. So one of the places that we've started is to really over-index on different ethnicities in our sampling and testing, so that the products that we create are much better suited to those ethnicities, have been tried on those ethnicities. But I think it's exactly these kinds of conversations that are the right conversations for organisations to really be held to account on, because we've kind of been we've missed opportunities in the past. And you're right, Kamanza, we've introduced a lot of new brands in terms of catering to different hair textures, for example, or to different skin shades, but you don't want to keep it kind of otherized or separate. And we want to make sure that everybody, whoever the beauty advisor is that you happen to walk into and speak to, that sees you as the whole human being and knows exactly how to cater to the different needs that you would have. So there's a long way to go, but I'd say there has been some progress made. And Deborah, I'll hand the mic back to you.
Thank you. Just in terms of like practicalities in getting brands onto shelves, I mean, speaking with a lot of brands and clients I work with, the retail plans a lot of the big box retailers have, in order for small brands to actually positioning, is ridiculous. For up to 90-day payment terms for a small brand is a death knell. Second to that, a lot of like retailers will pay for play. The more you pay in a store, the more promotional activity you get. There needs to be some sort of adjustment to that to really truly see inclusivity and diversity, because as we know, minority brands tend to have lesser funding and lesser to invest. So if that's going to be looked at, these things need to be considered as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we can take a steer from, sorry to jump in there, but I think we can all as an industry take a bit of a steer from the US as well, where supplier diversity programs have been in place for longer, and the spend with diverse owned businesses has been something that's been tracked more closely. I know, sorry.
Okay, sorry, do you want to finish off your sentence? I'm just conscious of time. It's nearly 1:45 already.
Yeah, I know. We're all just excited about the conversation, aren't we? The only thing I was just going to say is, I know we mentioned earlier about a directory and how do we make really obvious who exists already in the business. I know that Grace Timothy and Anita Bagrandas have started something in the space. It is very broad ranging, so we might need to build on it to be more specific on education and on skin education from the sounds of it. But I think the British Beauty Council could support in that space, definitely.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. So I wanted to move on because I've got a question for everybody. And I wanted to move on to the media and asking Deborah specifically about this. Are there any examples of how the media has catered its content to a diverse audience, or have you not found any at all?
You know, the funny thing is, the conversation on diversity has been going on for the last few years on a sort of mainstream level. And as far as I can recollect, it was when Fenty Beauty launched. All of a sudden, Fenty Beauty launched all this diverse shades, and there was huge fanfare, I guess rightly so, when you have a powerhouse like Rihanna behind it. But prior to this, there were brands out there already doing that. There were brands out there that already had quite a large, expansive shade offering, and there were Black-owned brands that were also offering shades specific to a demographic. So I feel a lot of the media conversation on diversity has been focused around the offerings that comes to hair and makeup particularly, that larger players have expanded to be truly diverse and to have journalistic integrity, I feel it's a responsibility to make sure you're covering all brands, not just the big players. As you can tell, I go gun ho for independent small business. That's what I feel needs the most support. But in order to have that sort of diverse editorial coverage, you need to have writers on your team, freelancers or staffers, who represent the audience in which the brands are sort of cater for. And I thought there are great writers out there like Ava Larson-Kitcher, Letitia Scott, Twiggy Jallow, you know, these young girls coming through who in their existence straddle both sides of the fence. They straddle the status quo because they assimilate to the culture of Western world, but they're also Black women with a particular interest in their cultural identity. So to see more Black and women of colour writers out there editorial teams would be great, but also not just relegating them to cover ethnic topics. These are great writers within their own right, so they should have the platforms and opportunities to cover everything. So in answer to your question, do I think journalists really could be doing more? Yeah, I do. I mean, last week, the amount of listicles that went up in support of Black-owned business was beautiful to see, but it's not enough. You need to be bringing that same energy this time next week, next month, next year, and the year after.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Gary, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, even when you look at magazines, I know since Edward took over Vogue, he's been doing so many amazing things. He's been putting more Black models on the covers. And even when you look at other magazines, you'll see like a Black model maybe on a few pages. But when you go to the back of like a magazine, you won't really see information about Black hair or about Black makeup. You just rarely see it. So I feel like the media really does need to improve in this, because sometimes when you buy magazines, it will just have information about maybe just maybe white brands, or maybe just brands that just aren't as inclusive. So I do feel like that does need to change.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. So if there is anything you want to add at the end, then please feel free to. So Charlotte, this is to you. Have you had any great experiences of diversity in the actual workplace, and what can be done to improve upon that?
Well, I've had great inclusivity in my own salon, because I employ people from all different backgrounds and ethnicities. Like I've had a Japanese stylist, I've had Romanian stylists, I've had Polish stylists, I've had Bulgarian stylists. But in my own journey, since I launched my brand, Manketti Oil, it's been really difficult. It took me, I launched in 2016, and it took till 2019 to get my first retailer, which was ridiculous, really, because I saw other white brands that were not even anywhere as close as mine in all of the retailers. And you email these buyers, I don't know if they don't understand. So I'm like, we really need to have like, Black buyers as well. There should be Black buyers in every organization, not just, these little I just don't get it. It's ridiculous,
Yeah.
Like, I really feel sad sometimes, because even when there are the Black brands in the retail space, it's like, it's on a very low shelf. There's no energy around it. No one knows much about the product. You go in there, like, no one even has any interest. They don't really care. So I really sometimes just think, is it time for Black people just to create their own and just forget all this trying to move forward is to integrate and be as one. But it seems like we're always just being sidelined, always treated as the other. And it's very hurtful. Sometimes a lot of this pain leads to mental health. I mean, it's deep.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah, Dija, oh, sorry, Deborah, do you want to go first, and then we'll jump to Dija?
Well, Miss Ayodele.
I was completely 100% co-sign exactly what Charlotte said. A few years ago, I had my own skincare brand, and I went out to retail as well. It was always, you must have packaging, you must have beautifully done packaging, you must have beautifully done copy, you must have a beautiful website. I had everything. And I went out to retail, and I was always told, it's amazing, it's beautiful, Dija, we just don't have space on the shelf just yet. But and then I'd see other white-owned brands having space on the shelf. Brands that did exactly what I did, having space on the shelf. In the end, I jacked it all in because I was losing a lot of money, and it just wasn't going anywhere. And Charlotte's absolutely right when she says it's very disheartening, and it can lead to mental health. So you got to be really strong to deal with that. So it's complete. The idea that, and I knew I was dealing with all white teams. I was dealing with all white teams who would partake in business with people who looked like them.
Yeah.
And no matter how well I spoke or how well I presented my product, you know, I could have presented it with unicorn dust. I wasn't going to get in. I just wasn't. I did. And I think, I mean, people, I always say to people when they ask me, I said, my face didn't fit.
Yeah.
My face just did not fit. And that's really, really, really sad. And this was only 2 or 3 years ago. So
I mean,
it's not that long ago that this happened. It's not in the 50s. This happened 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy because you get in there as well, and then there's no support. There's no kind of like any kind of advice, any mentoring. So if you're not, they'll say, oh, you're not doing well, and they'll pull you out. And you're like, but I only just got here a minute ago.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry.
You can see that it's quite passionate, but I really do think that brands, the big retailers that we would all love to be present in, I really do think that they need to have some sort of initiative which can, at least it would school the Black-owned brands who want to get in. Because sometimes, I will always say this sometimes you get to a point and you might get in the room, but you don't know how to, I say it in inverted commas, you don't know how to act. You don't have the right skills, you're not being groomed the right way, you know, and all that sort of stuff. And I think a bit like how Julie Roberts got groomed before she could go out to eat that fancy dinner in Pretty Woman, right? I think that black brands really do need that. Almost, it sounds awful for me to say it, but taking aside and saying this is how you do it.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to come from the retailers. They need to provide this mentorship, because otherwise, how are you going to get the brands in the room each time you say they don't know what to do?
Yeah. I know we're all in it to make money. It's about business. No one's going to show you how to market your product. But you're doing the PR, you're doing all the quotes, you're doing all the magazines. Yeah, they'll tell you, oh, it's not selling. It's not selling because it's right at the bottom of the shelf. It's a new product. Why don't you move it around the store? Why don't you have an event, bring the founder in, do a talk? There's so much you can do. I've had a salon for over 22 years. If I didn't know what I was doing, I wouldn't have it for 22 years. So I know very well how to run a business, but I feel like sometimes we're just like the other. So it's like, oh, you know, it's not, no one's bothered. There's no energy, there's no love. You know, no one really cares. So then you're just like, okay, they don't want me, let me take my goods. But it shouldn't be like that. You know, my parents came here more than 60 years ago. The amount of work they've done in this country, we deserve so much more.
So I'm just going to move it on there, just because I've got a couple more questions and we've got 8 minutes left, and then I want to see if anybody in the audience has a couple of questions for you guys. So Charlotte, Kamanza. What have been the inclusivity barriers you've faced during your career, or do you feel that there hasn't been any?
Ooh, say that again, what?
So what have the inclusivity barriers been for you, if there have been any, during your career?
Barriers, I think that there has been quite a lot of barriers. Simply because for me, I think when there are not decision makers on a higher level, there's a barrier, you know. So yes, in the industry, you're making it diverse, you make it, but you're not making it inclusive on the decision level, on a higher level. To make it more inclusive, you know, you need to have all representation on a higher level. It's really important that you have all ethnicities on a higher level to make the right decision. There's no point in just bringing people in on a medium or low level and, you know, yeah, what's your idea, blah, 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 great. But at the end, the people making the decisions, if there isn't someone of that ethnicity who understands, there's no point. You know, the thing is, for me, whenever there's a barrier, I always, for example, for me with my courses, if I go on set and I find that there's a barrier, I actually flip it around and put it into my course. So if I see that, you know, there's a barrier where someone can't do this technique or do, I put it into the course. If I see that we're on set and they don't have enough people who know how to do this, I'll recommend. So I think the core thing is we need people in higher places.
Yeah.
We need Black people or just equal ethnicity on the managerial, on the decision making, on a higher level. Then things will progress. Otherwise, yes, you can tick the inclusivity, the diversity, but it's not inclusive. It's only inclusive to a certain level.
Yeah. Fiona, did you have something to add to that?
I was just going to say, I totally agree with Mensah. And I think we've got evidence that we can do it as an industry. I think we focused for a long time on better gender equality. And we've seen the representation of women in leadership positions increase, dramatically in that time.
Yeah.
And we've seen more women-owned businesses be invested in. So I think it all goes back to being very intentional as an industry. I think now we've got a seminal moment. It should have come sooner, of course it should. But I do think we've got a seminal moment here that we can really, really drive for change by getting intentional about the racial equality piece, like we have done for gender before. Gary, I don't know if you were going to say something as well.
I was just speaking from when we definitely do need more Black people in more high positions. I'm not sure, I've seen someone say in the chat, like Sharon from Oma Beauty did the pull up or shop challenge, and it was actually quite shocking to see some brands that you think would have Black people working in their offices had like none. And so when you see all these beauty campaigns and you just wonder, well, oh my God, they could have put like so many skin tones in that campaign, but there isn't. You just got to think, well, there obviously wasn't a Black person in it higher up to say, no, I think we should have this and this shade. And I feel like it's just such a shame, really, just because you haven't got people so diverse in such a diverse brand that when you facilitate something, it doesn't excel just because you've got the same people thinking the same way. That's why we need more diverse people in higher PR positions, senior management positions, even in retail. So that's why I think that's what we need.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got 3 minutes left and I've just got a couple of questions that have come through that Diana has sent. So I'm just going to start at the top because they've come through on my phone because the chat is going off, which is brilliant. So this is from Sheb and this is to everybody. So if you'd like to just like jump in if you feel like you'd add to like to add. So Rihanna proved that there is a huge market for the brown skin shades of all hue. She's an estimated $3 billion business and has represented for every skin type from the palest to the darkest. Do you think Black beauty brands are more inclusive to other communities as opposed to the other way round?
Yes, definitely. I mean, my Manketti oil range, it's like for every hair type. We sell mostly to Jewish women. That's who our real customers are. They buy so much because it's very hydrated. A lot of Jewish people have dry, quite curly Afro type hair. So we included everybody. We didn't just make it and say this is only for Afro 40. It was for everyone. And like I said, in my salon, I'll employ anyone that can do the hair well and they respect what we're doing and believe in my vision. I'll gladly have you on my team. So I've always been inclusive. I think it's always hard for us the other way around because Black people are very good at supporting other brands, but I'm not so sure if other brands actually give us that same support.
Brilliant. And then I'll just take it to one more person, to Gary.
So I did a video about this the other day because I feel like when people think of Black or makeup brands, they just think, oh, it's just for Black people. But if you look at like Oma Beauty, Juvia's Place, they all cater to every skin tone. But as Charlotte said, when it's the other way around, they just want to give us 3 or 2 shades, which is unacceptable, really. And I feel like it needs to be equal because when people think of Black-owned brands, they just think, oh, just going to do darker skin tones. But it's not like that. We do it for everyone because that's when we create brands, we want everyone to be included and be accepted in our business.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. So the next question is from Grace Timothy, and I'll probably ask this one and then I'll close it off because we're at 5 o'clock. So she said, I can't help but feel in terms of magazines especially, there's a need for a more diverse hierarchy, not just writers. Those who commission, edit, plan content, publish, manage advertising everywhere. It seems like there may be headway in terms of freelancers and junior staffers, but there needs to be a change among the decision makers, which you all said. So what can we do to educate those people at the top?
I think that magazines, especially at the top, They definitely need to have, number one, watch things like this, but actually call the relevant players in for discussions. When I know that, for example, when magazines sometimes do round tables, who do you have there that represents all the other possible people you could have there? Are people actually using the rider to say, okay, we have space for 10. How are we going to split this up? Are they actually using that? Are they reaching out? Are they asking for suggestions? The other day I had to make a whole list of suggestions for people who I think could possibly been invited to an event. So, and I was actually surprised that those people weren't actually even considered in the first place. You know, so at the end of the day, we need to be thinking broadly, and the people at the top need to, even if it's like a buddy system, a mentorship program. I think we've discussed this before within the British Beauty Council, having some sort of high up and a junior kind of buddy system, so that ideas can trickle up as well as trickle down. And I think that's how you get a fair representation, or one of the ways you get fair representation.
Brilliant. I love that. Okay, I said at the beginning I would be respectful of everyone's time, and it is absolutely flown by. We're at 5 p.m. already. I firstly wanted to say thank you to all of you who are on the panel. You have been phenomenal with the insight that you've shared, with the advice that you've given. And I know we have really big brands and corporations and organizations, as well as makeup artists, beauty therapists and freelancers on the chat. It has been going off and it's been so interesting. So I encourage everybody now to carry on this conversation and to put the question to the big organizations that are here, like, what are you doing? Like, let's find out, and we want to know. So make sure you talk about it and you include everybody in it. So Deborah, did you just want to add something before we close?
Any sort of small brand owners out there, I am leading the UK version of Aurora James 15% pledge. So contacting UK retailers, getting them to commit to expand their spaces and offerings to Black-owned business. So anyone wants to be a part of that outreach, I think it's good to talk, but we need to be proactive. Please contact me, and the details are left in the chat.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. And to everybody in the chat, you've been so engaged. Thank you so much for taking part. We really, really value everything that you've said. I know Diana's been typing her little fingers off, replying to people and adding in really helpful comments and links there. And also we've had there's over 200 people still part of the talk. So it's been super engaging. So I would encourage you all to go and follow all our amazing panelists. Keep carrying on this conversation. The British Beauty Council is taking this as part of their roadmap, and Fiona is in carrying on this conversation and doing a whole heap of amazing work as part of that. So thank you to her too. So have an amazing evening. Thank you everyone so much again, and take care. All right, bye.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Do I end? Oh.